Welcome to Bookish English. Have you ever wanted to speak English in real life? Have you ever heard people talking in English and thought, I wish I could talk like that too? Many people learn English from books, but real conversations feel different. Real conversations are faster, more natural, and sometimes surprising. In this story, you will meet a young man named Ariel. Ariel is not perfect. He makes mistakes. He feels nervous. But he learns how to speak English by talking with real people every day. Stay with me and let's begin this journey together. Ariel moved to London 3 months ago. He came from Spain to study and work. On his first day in London, he felt excited and afraid at the same time. He knew some English from school. He could read simple texts. He could understand basic questions. But he had never used English in real life for a long conversation. Everything changed at the airport. A woman at the information desk smiled and asked, "Hello, can I help you?" Ariel froze for a moment. He knew the words, but hearing them from a real person felt different. Finally, he said, "Yes, please. I need help. Where's the train station?" The woman gave him directions. Ariel listened carefully. He did not understand every word, but he understood enough. When he found the train station, he felt proud. It was his first real English conversation. A week later, Ariel started English classes at a language school. The school was small but friendly. Students came from many countries. There were learners from Brazil, Japan, Turkey, Italy, and China. Everyone wanted to improve their English. Their teacher, Ms. Emma, told them something important. Textbooks are useful, she said, but real-life English is different. People use short phrases, simple questions, and natural expressions. If you want to speak well, you must listen to real people and talk with them. Ariel liked this idea. He wanted to speak English naturally, not just answer grammar exercises. During class, the students practiced everyday situations. They learned how to greet people, order food, ask for directions, and make small talk. Ms. Emma encouraged them to speak even when they were unsure. Don't wait for perfect English, she said. Use the English you know. After school, Ariel often visited a small cafe near the station. One afternoon, the waiter asked, "What can I get for you?" Ariel answered, "A coffee, please." Then, the waiter asked another question. "Would you like anything to eat?" Ariel did not understand immediately. He smiled nervously and said, "Sorry?" The waiter repeated the question more slowly. Ariel understood and ordered a sandwich. The conversation was short, but Ariel learned an important lesson. Real English often comes in small pieces. People do not speak like textbooks. They speak naturally. A few days later, Ariel got a part-time job in a cafe. On his first day, he was worried. What if customers spoke too fast? What if he did not understand? The manager, Sarah, noticed his nervousness. "Relax," she said. "Most conversations here are simple. You will learn quickly." She was right. Customers usually said things like, "Can I have a latte? Could I get a muffin? Is this seat free?" Ariel listened carefully and answered with short, clear sentences. At first, he spoke slowly, but every day became a little easier. One morning, a customer dropped her wallet. Ariel picked it up and said, "Excuse me, I think this is yours." The woman smiled and thanked him. They talked for a minute about the weather and the busy city. Ariel felt happy. He was having real conversations, not classroom exercises. In the evenings, Ariel practiced another skill. He listened to short English podcasts and repeated the sentences aloud. He also watched simple videos and tried to shadow the speakers. Sometimes he spoke to himself in English while walking home. "I'm going to the station," he would say. "I need to buy milk. Tomorrow I have class." These small habits helped him think in English instead of translating every word from Spanish. One Saturday, Ariel met his classmates at a park. They decided to spend the day speaking only English. At first, everyone made mistakes. Someone forgot a word. Someone used the wrong tense. But they kept talking. They discussed music, movies, food, and travel. Ariel noticed that confidence was more important than perfection. The more they spoke, the more comfortable they became. Later that day, Ariel met a tourist who looked lost. The tourist asked, "Excuse me, do you know where the museum is?" Ariel gave directions and even walked with him part of the way. During the walk, they talked about London, travel, and different cultures. When they said goodbye, the tourist said, "Your English is very good." Ariel smiled. A few months earlier, he would have been afraid to answer such a question. Now he could have a real conversation with a stranger. As time passed, Ariel discovered another secret about real-life English. People often use common phrases again and again. He heard expressions like "no problem," "sounds good," "I'm not sure," "have a nice day," and "see you later" almost every day. These phrases became natural to him because he heard them in real situations. He did not memorize them from a list. He learned them by listening and using them. One evening, Sarah invited the cafe staff to a small dinner after work. Ariel felt nervous because the conversation would be longer than the short exchanges at the cafe counter. But he went anyway. During dinner, people talked about their hobbies, families, and future plans. Ariel listened carefully and joined the conversation when he could. Sometimes he asked, "What does that mean?" or "Can you say that again?" Nobody minded. In fact, people appreciated his effort to communicate. By the end of the evening, Ariel realized he had spoken English for almost 2 hours. It was not perfect English, but it was real English. The next week, Ms. Emma asked the class, "What is the biggest difference between classroom English and real-life English?" Ariel raised his hand. "In real life," he said, "people don't wait for perfect sentences. They just communicate." Ms. Emma smiled. "Exactly. Communication comes first. Accuracy improves with practice." Ariel wrote that sentence in his notebook. One rainy afternoon, a new student named Ben joined the class. Ben was shy and rarely spoke. Ariel remembered his own first weeks in London. After class, he introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Ariel. Do you want to grab a coffee?" Ben agreed. They talked slowly and simply. Ariel encouraged him to keep speaking even when he made mistakes. "I still make mistakes," Ariel said, "but speaking is how we learn." Ben relaxed and began talking more. Ariel realized that helping someone else also helped him become more confident. Months later, Ariel looked back at his journey. He still had things to learn. Native speakers sometimes used slang he did not know. Fast conversations could still be challenging, but he was no longer afraid to speak. He could order food, ask questions, help tourists, talk with coworkers, and make new friends. English had become part of his daily life. One night, Ariel sat in his room and wrote in his diary. When I arrived in London, I knew English words, but I was afraid to use them. Real-life English taught me something important. You don't become confident before you speak. You become confident because you speak. He closed the diary and smiled. The next morning, he would wake up, go to work, greet customers, chat with classmates, and continue learning through real conversations. And that is the heart of real-life English talking, using the language with real people in real situations every single day. Chapter 2. Real Conversations. Change everything. A few weeks passed. Ariel continued going to school and working at the cafe. Every day he spoke a little more English. Every day he understood a little more. He was not perfect, but he was improving. One morning, Ariel arrived at the cafe earlier than usual. The streets were quiet. The city was slowly waking up. He opened the door and started preparing the tables. A few minutes later, Sarah arrived. "Good morning, Ariel," she said. "Good morning, Sarah," Ariel replied. "You seem happy today." "I am happy," Ariel said. "Yesterday I spoke English for almost the whole day." Sarah smiled. "That's great. The more you use English, the more natural it becomes." Ariel liked hearing those words. Later that morning, many customers came into the cafe. Some wanted coffee, some wanted tea, others wanted breakfast. Around 10 o'clock, an elderly man entered the cafe. He sat near the window and ordered a cup of coffee. Ariel brought the coffee to his table. "Here you are," Ariel said. "Thank you very much," the man replied. Ariel smiled and returned to the counter. A few minutes later, the man called him again. "Excuse me, young man." "Yes, sir? I come here every Friday. I don't think I've seen you before." "I started working here recently," Ariel said. "Oh, I see. Where are you from?" "I'm from Spain." "Spain is beautiful," the man said. "I visited Barcelona many years ago." For the next few minutes, they talked about Spain, London, food, and travel. The conversation was simple, but Ariel noticed something important. He was no longer translating every sentence in his head. The words were coming naturally. When the man left, he said, "Your English is excellent." Ariel laughed. "No, it isn't." The man smiled. "Maybe not perfect, but communication is perfect. That is what matters." Those words stayed in Ariel's mind all day. That evening, Ariel attended his English class. Ms. Emma asked everyone to share a recent experience. One student talked about shopping. Another student talked about visiting a museum. When it was Ariel's turn, he told the class about the elderly customer. Everyone listened carefully. When he finished, Ms. Emma said, "You see, this is how language grows. Real conversations teach lessons that books cannot teach. The next weekend, Ariel decided to explore London. He wanted to visit new places and practice English outside the classroom. He took the train to a famous market. The market was full of people. Tourists walked everywhere. Street musicians played music. Food sellers called out to customers. English was all around him. At first, Ariel simply listened. He listened to conversations. He listened to announcements. He listened to shopkeepers speaking with customers. Then, he decided to be brave. He walked to a food stall. The seller smiled. "What would you like?" Ariel looked at the menu. "What do you recommend?" he asked. The seller seemed pleased. "Good question," he said. "Our chicken wrap is very popular. I'll try that." "Great choice." While the seller prepared the food, they talked about the market. The seller told Ariel which places were worth visiting. Ariel asked questions. The conversation felt easy, natural, real. After lunch, Ariel visited a bookstore. Books had always been one of his favorite things. That was one reason he loved the name of his favorite YouTube channel, Bookish English. Inside the bookstore, he found an English novel for learners. A woman standing nearby noticed the book. "That's a good one," she said. "Have you read it?" Ariel asked. "Yes, it's very interesting." Soon they were discussing books, then movies, then travel. A 10-minute conversation appeared from nowhere. Ariel left the bookstore with a smile. Real-life English was everywhere. You only needed the courage to start. The following Monday, something unexpected happened. A new employee joined the cafe. Her name was Mia. She came from Italy and had recently moved to London. On her first day, she looked nervous. Ariel remembered exactly how that felt. During lunch break, he sat beside her. "How are you finding London?" he asked. Mia smiled. "It's exciting, but my English is not very good." Ariel laughed softly. "I used to say the same thing." "Really?" "Yes. I was very nervous when I arrived." "What helped you?" Ariel thought for a moment. Then he said, "Talking. Real conversations, even short ones." Mia nodded. "I am afraid of making mistakes." "We all make mistakes," Ariel said. "The important thing is to keep talking." Over the next few weeks, Ariel and Mia became friends. They often practiced English together. Sometimes they spoke during breaks. Sometimes they walked through the city after work. Sometimes they sat in a park and talked about life. Little by little, both of them improved. One rainy evening, Ariel received a phone call from his mother in Spain. They spoke for a while. Then she asked a question. "Ariel, are you happy there?" Ariel looked out of the window. The rain was falling softly. Cars moved slowly through the streets. People hurried home with umbrellas. He thought about everything that had happened. The school, the cafe, the new friends, the conversations, the confidence he had gained, and most importantly, the English he was now using every day. "Yes," he said, "I am very happy." His mother smiled. "I can hear it in your voice." After the call ended, Ariel sat quietly for a moment. Then he opened his notebook. He wrote a sentence that felt very important. "Real-life English is not about knowing every word. It is about connecting with people. He looked at the sentence again. Then he added another one. Every conversation is a lesson. Ariel closed the notebook and smiled. Tomorrow would bring more conversations, more mistakes, more learning, and more opportunities to grow. For the first time in his life, English no longer felt like a school subject. It felt like part of his life, and his journey was only beginning. Chapter 3. Speaking Without Fear. A few months passed. Ariel's life became busier but also more exciting. He continued studying English. He continued working at the cafe. Most importantly, he continued talking to people every day. One morning, Ariel woke up before his alarm. The sun was shining through the window. He stretched his arms and smiled. A few months ago, he used to feel nervous every morning. Now, he felt different. English was becoming a normal part of his life. As he walked to work, he noticed something surprising. He was thinking in English. He looked at the sky and thought, "The weather is beautiful today." Then he thought about his work schedule. "I start at 8. I finish at 3. After that, I have class." He stopped walking for a moment. He realized he had not translated those thoughts from Spanish. They came directly in English. It was a small moment, but it felt important. At the cafe, the morning was very busy. Customers entered one after another. Some were in a hurry. Some wanted to chat. Some looked tired because they had just started their day. Around 9 o'clock, a businessman entered the cafe. He looked stressed. He ordered a coffee and sat down with his laptop. A few minutes later, Ariel brought the coffee to his table. The man smiled weakly. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Ariel replied. The man looked at him. "Are you from Spain?" Ariel was surprised. "Yes." "How did you know?" "I lived in Madrid for 2 years." Ariel smiled immediately. For the next few minutes, they talked about Spain. The man told stories about Spanish food, Spanish culture, and his time in Madrid. Ariel listened carefully. Sometimes the man spoke quickly. A few months ago, Ariel would have been lost. Now he understood most of the conversation. When the man finally left, he said, "Your English is very natural." Those words made Ariel feel proud. Not because he was perfect, but because he had worked hard. Later that afternoon, Ariel attended his English class. Ms. Emma had prepared a special activity. When the students entered the classroom, they saw several chairs arranged in circles. Everyone looked confused. Ms. Emma smiled. "Today, we will have real conversations." The students sat down. Each person had to speak with a partner for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, they changed partners. Then they changed again and again. The topics were simple: family, travel, food, dreams, hobbies, future plans. At first, some students felt nervous, but after a while, everyone relaxed. The classroom became full of laughter and conversation. Ariel noticed something. He no longer worried about every mistake. He focused on communication. When he forgot a word, he explained it another way. When he made a grammar mistake, he continued speaking. The conversation never stopped. At the end of the lesson, Ms. Emma said something important. The biggest enemy of speaking is fear. The classroom became quiet. She continued. Many students know hundreds of words. They understand grammar. They read books. But they are afraid to speak. She smiled. Don't wait for confidence before you speak. Speak first. Confidence comes later. Ariel immediately wrote those words in his notebook. That evening, he met Mia after work. They decided to walk through the city together. The streets were full of people. Tourists were taking photos. Street musicians were playing music. The city felt alive. As they walked, Mia suddenly asked a question. Ariel, what was your biggest challenge when you arrived here? Ariel thought for a moment. Fear. Fear? Yes. I was afraid people would judge my English. Mia nodded. I feel that way sometimes. Ariel smiled. Most people don't care about mistakes. They care about communication. Mia laughed. That is true. They continued walking. They talked about their childhoods, their families, their goals, their favorite books. Hours passed quickly. Neither of them noticed. That was another sign of progress. When conversations become enjoyable, you stop thinking about the language. You simply communicate. A week later, Ariel experienced something unexpected. A group of tourists entered the cafe. They looked confused. One woman approached the counter. Excuse me, she said, can you help us? Of course, Ariel replied. The tourists wanted directions to a famous museum. Ariel explained everything clearly. He described the train station. He explained which bus to take. He even recommended a few places to visit nearby. The tourists listened carefully. When he finished, one of them smiled. You explained that very well. Thank you. As they left, Ariel felt something warm inside. Months ago, he could barely ask for directions. Now, he was giving directions. English had opened a new door. That night, Ariel sat in his room with a notebook. He liked writing about his experiences. It helped him see his progress. He wrote, Today I helped tourists. Then he paused. A smile appeared on his face. He continued writing. A few months ago, I was afraid to speak. Today I spoke with confidence. He looked at the sentence. Then he added another. Fear becomes smaller every time you use English. The next morning, Ariel woke up feeling motivated. He decided to challenge himself. For one full day, he would speak English whenever possible. At work, at school, in shops, on the train, everywhere. The challenge turned out to be easier than he expected. At work, he spoke with customers. At school, he spoke with classmates. At the supermarket, he spoke with the cashier. On the train, he helped a visitor understand a map. By the end of the day, he realized something important. English was no longer something he practiced. English was something he lived. Before going to bed, he opened his notebook once more. He wrote, Real-life English is not learned in one day. It grows one conversation at a time. Every question helps. Every answer helps. Every mistake helps. And every conversation makes you stronger. Ariel closed the notebook and turned off the light. Tomorrow would bring new people, new conversations, new lessons, and he was ready for all of them. because now, when English appeared in his life, he no longer felt afraid. He felt excited, and that changed everything. Chapter 4: English in Everyday Life. The next few weeks were some of the busiest weeks of Ariel's life. He studied in the morning, he worked in the afternoon, and in the evening, he practiced English whenever he could. But something was changing. English no longer felt like practice. It was becoming part of his everyday life. One Saturday morning, Ariel decided to spend the day exploring a different part of London. He wanted to see new places. He wanted to hear new conversations. And he wanted to challenge himself to use English as much as possible. After breakfast, he took the train across the city. The train was crowded. People were reading newspapers. Some were looking at their phones. Others were talking quietly with friends. Ariel listened carefully. Months ago, English conversations sounded like fast noise. Now he could understand many parts of them, not everything, but enough. That made him feel proud. When he arrived, he found a beautiful street filled with small shops. There were bookstores, coffee shops, clothing stores, and small restaurants. Everything looked interesting. The first place he entered was a bakery. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. A woman behind the counter smiled. "Good morning." "Good morning," Ariel replied. "What would you like today?" Ariel looked at the display. There were so many choices. Finally, he pointed to a pastry. "I'll have one of those, please." "Great choice," the woman said. "It is one of our most popular items." Ariel smiled. Then he decided to continue the conversation. "Do you make them here?" "Yes, every morning." For the next few minutes, they talked about baking and local food. The conversation was simple, but Ariel enjoyed it. Every conversation helped him become more comfortable. After leaving the bakery, he continued walking. Soon, he found a small bookstore. Books always made him happy. He entered and started looking around. A few minutes later, he noticed an older man standing near the language section. The man was holding an English learning book. Ariel smiled. "Are you learning English too?" he asked. The man laughed. "No, I teach English." "Oh, really?" "Yes, I've been teaching for 20 years. Ariel suddenly became interested. The man seemed friendly. They started talking. The teacher asked Ariel about his learning journey. Ariel explained how he had arrived in London with very little confidence. He explained how real conversations had helped him improve. The teacher listened carefully. Then he said something interesting. "Many students think they need perfect grammar before they speak." Ariel nodded. "I used to think that." The teacher smiled. "But language is for communication. Communication comes first." Ariel immediately remembered Ms. Emma saying something similar. Perhaps all good teachers knew the same secret. Before leaving, the teacher gave him one piece of advice. Talk to people whenever you can. Ariel thanked him. Then he left the bookstore feeling inspired. That afternoon, he met Mia in a nearby park. The weather was beautiful. Children were playing football. Families were having picnics. People were enjoying the sunshine. Ariel and Mia sat on a bench. For almost an hour, they spoke only English. Sometimes they discussed travel. Sometimes they discussed work. Sometimes they discussed funny experiences from their childhood. The conversation flowed naturally. At one point, Mia suddenly smiled. "What?" Ariel asked. "I just realized something." "What?" "We've been speaking English for almost an hour." Ariel laughed. "You're right. And we didn't even notice." They both smiled. That was another important lesson. When communication becomes natural, you stop counting words. You stop worrying about grammar. You simply talk. The following week, something exciting happened at the cafe. Sarah announced that a special event would take place on Friday evening. The cafe would host an international language night. People from different countries would come to meet, talk, and practice languages. Everyone working at the cafe was excited. Friday arrived quickly. By evening, the cafe was full. People from many countries filled the tables. Some wanted to practice English. Others wanted to learn about different cultures. The atmosphere was warm and friendly. Ariel spent most of the evening talking with visitors. He met people from Germany, Brazil, Japan, Turkey, France, and many other places. Everyone spoke English together. Sometimes the conversations were perfect. Sometimes they were not. But nobody cared. Everyone was there to communicate. At one table, Ariel met a university student named Lucas. Lucas had arrived in London only 2 weeks earlier. He looked nervous, very nervous. The feeling was familiar. Ariel remembered being exactly the same. "I don't think my English is good enough," Lucas admitted. Ariel smiled. "I used to say that too." "Really?" "Every day." Lucas laughed. Then Ariel told him about his first days in London. He described how nervous he had felt. He described his mistakes, his fears, his confusion. Lucas listened carefully. By the end of the conversation, he looked much more relaxed. Before leaving, Lucas said something Ariel would never forget. "Thank you. I feel better now." Those simple words made Ariel happy. Helping someone else felt wonderful. As the event ended, Sarah walked over to Ariel. "You were amazing tonight." Ariel looked surprised. "Me?" "Yes. You spoke with everyone. You helped people feel comfortable." Ariel smiled. "Thank you." Sarah nodded. "You've changed a lot since your first day." Ariel knew she was right. His English was stronger. But more importantly, his confidence was stronger. That night, after returning home, Ariel sat at his desk. He opened his notebook. It had become a habit. Whenever he learned something important, he wrote it down. He picked up his pen and wrote, "English grows when you use it." Then he thought for a moment and added another sentence. "Every conversation is an opportunity." He looked at the page. Then he continued writing. "Some opportunities help you learn. Some opportunities help you make friends. And some opportunities help you help others." Ariel smiled. The city outside was quiet. The lights from nearby buildings shined through his window. He thought about everything that had happened: the bakery, the bookstore, the language night, the new people he had met, the new confidence he had gained. English had brought all of those experiences into his life. And deep inside, Ariel knew something exciting. His story was still just beginning. Many adventures were waiting for him. Many conversations were waiting for him. And with every conversation, his world was becoming bigger. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities, new lessons, new friendships, and Ariel was ready for all of them. Chapter 5. Ariel's Biggest English Challenge. Yet a few days after the International Language Night, Ariel was working at the cafe as usual. The morning was busy. Customers entered and left. Coffee machines made noise. People talked and laughed. Everything felt normal. Then Sarah called him over. Ariel, can we talk for a moment? Of course, as Ariel replied. Sarah smiled. I have something important to ask you. Ariel became curious. What is it? Sarah pointed toward a poster hanging on the wall. The poster advertised a community event that would take place the following weekend. Many local businesses would participate. There would be music, food, games, and activities. The cafe would have its own stand there. Then Sarah said something unexpected. I want you to represent our cafe. Ariel blinked. Me? Yes. At the event? Yes. Ariel suddenly felt nervous, very nervous. Speaking with customers was one thing. Speaking at a public event was something completely different. Sarah noticed his expression. What's wrong? I don't know if my English is good enough. Sarah laughed softly. Ariel, I've heard you speak with customers every day. That's different. Why? Because this will be in front of many people. Sarah smiled. Then she said something that reminded him of Ms. Emma. You don't need perfect English. You need confidence. For the rest of the day, Ariel could not stop thinking about the event. The idea excited him, but it also scared him. That evening, he met Mia after work. As they walked through the city, he told her everything. Mia immediately smiled. You should do it. What if I make mistakes? You will make mistakes, Ariel laughed. That's not very encouraging. Mia laughed too. Then she said, everyone makes mistakes. Native speakers make mistakes. The goal is communication. Ariel knew she was right. Still, he felt nervous. The next day, he told Ms. Emma about the event. She looked excited. This is a wonderful opportunity, but I'm scared. Good. Ariel looked confused. Good? Ms. Emma nodded. Growth often feels uncomfortable. Then she continued, when you first arrived in London, speaking to one customer felt difficult. That's true. Now you do it every day. Ariel smiled. She was right. What once seemed impossible now felt normal. Maybe this challenge would become normal too. During the following week, Ariel prepared carefully. He wrote short notes, he practiced introductions, he practiced answering common questions. Every evening, he stood in front of a mirror. Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel. Welcome to our cafe. At first, he felt awkward, but each day became easier. Sometimes Mia helped him practice. Sometimes Sarah listened and gave suggestions. Little by little, his confidence grew. Finally, the day arrived. The community event was held in a large park. Hundreds of people filled the area. Children played games. Musicians performed on a stage. Food stalls lined the streets. People were everywhere. When Ariel arrived, his heart started beating faster. There were far more people than he expected. Sarah noticed immediately. Nervous? A little, Sarah laughed. A little? A lot. She smiled. You'll be fine. For the first hour, Ariel helped serve drinks and snacks, and that part felt comfortable. He spoke with customers, he answered questions. Everything went well. Then something unexpected happened. The event organizer approached the cafe stand. Excuse me, he said. We need someone to make a short announcement on stage. Sarah immediately looked at Ariel. No, Ariel whispered. Sarah smiled. Yes. The organizer nodded. It will only take 2 minutes. 2 minutes. To Ariel, it sounded like 2 hours. His stomach felt tight. His hands felt cold. But before he knew it, he was walking toward the stage. The crowd looked enormous. Hundreds of faces looked in his direction. For a moment, Ariel wanted to turn around. He wanted to run away. Then, he remembered something Ms. Emma often said. Don't wait to feel confident. Speak first. He took a deep breath. Then he began. Hello, everyone. His voice sounded nervous, but he continued. My name is Ariel. I work at the cafe over there. A few people smiled, some waved. That made him feel better. He continued speaking. He talked about the cafe. He invited people to visit. He thanked everyone for attending the event. The speech lasted less than 2 minutes. But for Ariel, it felt like an important moment. When he finished, people applauded. Not loudly, not wildly, but warmly. And that was enough. As he walked off the stage, he felt something incredible. Relief, pride, happiness. Sarah met him near the stairs. You did it. Ariel smiled. I did. You were great. I made mistakes. Sarah shrugged. Nobody noticed. Ariel laughed. Maybe she was right. The audience cared about his message. Not his grammar. Not his accent. Not his mistakes. Later that afternoon, several people visited the cafe stand. Some had heard him speak. Some wanted to ask questions. Others simply wanted coffee. Ariel spoke with all of them. And something had changed. The fear was gone. Not completely, but much smaller than before. That evening, after the event ended, Ariel walked home alone. The city lights reflected on the wet streets. People hurried past him. Cars moved through the night. Everything looked peaceful. When he reached his apartment, he opened his notebook. He knew exactly what he wanted to write. He wrote, Today I spoke on a stage. Then he paused. A smile slowly appeared on his face. He continued, I was scared. My hands shook. My voice was nervous. But I spoke anyway. Then he wrote one final sentence. The biggest victories happen when you do something despite your fear. Ariel looked at the page for a long time. Then he closed the notebook. A few months ago, he was afraid to ask simple questions in English. Today, he had spoken in front of hundreds of people. The journey was far from over. There was still much to learn. Many words, many conversations, many experiences. But tonight, Ariel felt stronger than ever, and deep inside, he knew something important. The person who had arrived in London months ago was not the same person sitting in this room now. English had changed his life, and the best part of the story was still waiting ahead.